Radio Row in Indianapolis. It's Combine time as teams look for their next superstar. Some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment will be right here. Get ready for the 2026 draft, baby. It's the Jake Asman Show.
Live from Radio Row here at the NFL Scouting Combine, and joining us right now from NBC Sports and Pro Football Talk is the great Mike Florio. Mike.
Great is debatable, but it's good to be here.
Well, it's funny to actually see you in person because back during my Houston radio days, you were weekly on the Wheelhouse. So good to actually have a little face-to-face interaction instead of doing it on the phone.
Good to be here, and congratulations on your career advancement. The radio reality, popping around from city to city.
Oh, yeah.
Go where the opportunity is, but congratulations.
I appreciate that. Good to be back home. So for me, it's a lifelong dream.
Good.
No doubt. I'm a Jet fan. You know that. So I just listened to Aaron Glenn's press conference. Darren Muja, the GM, spoke right after him. They basically are trying to flush year one, and they know going into year two, things got to be a lot better. You had some interesting comments on your show not too long ago, talking about the whole Wink Martindale. Is he going to be this DC? Then he's not. How involved was Woody Johnson? Glenn today pushed back on that, basically saying Woody's only been supportive. I made the decision. I wanted to call the plays, and I told Wink Martindale that if he were to take the job, that I was going to be the play caller. Your thoughts on some of the pushback from Aaron Glenn?
Well, the reporting is what it is, and it had been gurgling out there for a while that something happened at some point to prompt Aaron Glenn to pivot from not calling the plays, not delegating the defense to his new coordinator, to taking over. And a lot of times the truth resides somewhere in between the semantics that are used by the reporter and by those who deny it. Here's the bottom line. Last year was a disaster, as evidenced by the fact that 9 of 21 members of the staff were fired, members of the staff that were hired just a year ago by Aaron Glenn. He's under pressure. I think his buyout saved him. I think without the buyout, there's a very good chance he would not be the coach of the Jets right now. But that's one of the benefits of getting a long-term contract with a lot of guarantees in it. Owners don't like to write that check for a guy to not work for the team. So he gets another chance this year, and the pressure is going to be on. They're going to need to be better offensively and defensively. And if it's another wasted year, who knows what Woody will do. The buyout goes down after 2026, and he may decide at that point it's time to make another change.
So Glenn's making, anywhere from $10 to $12.5 million. I've seen reported by various people. Woody Johnson is as rich as like anyone out there. Just spent $254 million on Crystal Palace.
Rich and cheap can be mutually exclusive.
That's where I wanted to go. So do you think it's also maybe an ego thing, though, not even just the money? It's like, hey, this is the first head coach and GM search that I oversaw since 2015. Todd Bowles and Mike McCagnon. His brother was the one who hired Adam Gase. His brother oversaw Joe Douglas hiring Robert Saleh. So I think a big thing that maybe saved Aaron Glenn in year one, despite the 3-14 record, Mike, is the fact that Woody feels like, hey, this is my hire. I knew Aaron Glenn. I knew him when he was a scout, when he was in our building. I had a relationship with him when he was an actual Jet player. I think that had a lot to do with him still having a job as well.
Well, I think a lot of factors go into it, but at the end of the day, plenty of really rich people are very cheap.
Is Woody known to be one of them?
Not to the same extreme as like a Jerry Jones or a Mike Brown, but my point is people don't like to pay multiple coaches, and you get into a Brown situation where you've got this giant mound of wasted money going to this coach, this GM, this person, that person. But your instinct may be right. Bottom line is he's getting another year, but it's going to be all year long speculation about whether or not he's going to survive, especially with Mike Tomlin hovering over the entire season. Not that Mike Tomlin's guaranteed to coach in 2027, but the fact that he's there and whoever else the hot candidates may be for 27, you're going to have people connecting dots. You're going to have people watching the Jets. And if the season falls apart, he's going to be one of the names as we go into week 18 and people are trying to figure out where the changes are going to be. It's going to be hard to imagine if there's another lost year, if it's a disaster again, it's going to be hard to imagine a change not being made, or at least seriously consider. When you get 10 out of 32 jobs to change this year, we typically see anywhere 6, 7, 8. It's part of the gig. And if you don't win enough games, you're going to be talked about as a guy who may not be employed.
Mike, do you think the Jet job could be viewed as an attractive one a year from now if it doesn't work out with Glenn? You're sitting there with all this cap space again next year, 3 first-round picks, and what is supposed to be a much better quarterback draft. Would that attract the right coach, or is the fact that the owner has the reputation that he has, is that going to be a huge issue in trying to get one of these top coaching candidates to consider the Jets?
The teams that have the owners who have presided over dysfunctional situations are always going to be at a disadvantage, and you end up being able to hire only people who don't have options. And I think that's just part of the reality. And yeah, I think that if the Jets are targeting a coach who is under consideration by, a team that isn't regarded as dysfunctional, it's going to be harder to get him. You may have to pay more money, give him an extra year on his contract, give him a little more power, whatever it may be. But that's just one of the realities. And there's a handful of teams that are chronically dysfunctional, and it's not bad luck. It all flows from the top. And the Jets, the results speak for themselves. No playoffs since 2010. And the one common denominator, even though he was gone for a few years, but the one common denominator is Woody Johnson.
Well, when it wasn't Woody overseeing the team, his brother was the one who hired ultimately Adam Gase, and the dysfunction of firing the general manager Mike McCagnon in May of 2019 to then hire Joe Douglas in June. He already spent the money and used all the draft capital. So even his brother made some terrible decisions too.
When Woody became the U.S. ambassador to the U.K. in the first Trump administration, people who compete with the Jets were disappointed because they thought Chris was going to be better than Woody. And, the bar was low. And you could argue Chris kept it low, if not pulled it down a little bit lower.
What's interesting is anyone I've spoken to about Chris, and you even just see this when he's had media appearances in the past, way better public speaker, not as awkward as Woody. Do you think there's ever a scenario where Woody's getting up there in age now, would maybe take a back seat and allow his brother, who's about maybe 13 years younger, I believe, is the age difference? Maybe he'd have more of a public say, or is it always going to be, the Woody show?
That's impossible to answer without knowing what Woody's plans are for the franchise, how much he owns versus how much Christopher owns. And you get some palace intrigue, Game of Thrones. Who does Woody want to take over? Are the teenage sons going to be groomed? I don't even know if they're teenagers anymore, but the kids who reportedly, rely on the Madden ratings and influence dad. You can't make this stuff up. And this is a fundamental problem that every fan of every team is stuck with. You can't change ownership. The owner is there as long as the owner wants to be there. And then the owner gives the team to whoever the owner wants to give the team to, unless the owner sells the team. And that's just the reality. And we see it time and again. Just because somebody has earned or inherited a lot of money doesn't mean they know the first thing about running a football team. And that's one of the reasons why the bad teams stay bad.
A big issue the Jets have had is obviously the personnel decisions, the coach, the GM over the years, they haven't gotten it right. Woody Johnson, for this most recent search, he brought back a guy he fired, a guy I do a Sunday radio show with, in Mike Tannenbaum in the 3013 to oversee the search. I've had people say, well, Woody just doesn't have the contacts around the league, so he has to go back to what he knows, and what he knew was Mike T. Have you heard similar things? Like, what are some of the things you could share about what you've heard about Woody and just why the Jets have been in this playoff drought for as long as they have?
Well, and let's go back to the premise of your question. Woody doesn't have the contacts around the league. Why doesn't he? Why doesn't he? Why wouldn't you care enough about the team that you own and have owned for how long now? 25 years?
He bought the team in 2000. Yep.
Okay. So why wouldn't you spend the time necessary to cultivate the relationships so when the time comes to make good decisions, you know what to do? One of the problems is, and this gets back to ego, owners don't want to expose their lack of knowledge and understanding to their competitors. So they don't ask for help. They don't know how to even begin to do it. They don't want to show weakness. It's this peacock competition from owner to owner. And you get into these situations where you've got to rely upon a consultant to come in and do the thing that you feel like you're not equipped to do. And I'm not a big fan of consultants because basically you're hiring who they would hire, or you're hiring somebody that they, and I don't mean to cast aspersions here. I'm just saying this is the general approach when you hire consultants. They're repaying a favor. They want to have influence. They want to do this. Like Rick Spielman went from being part of that team of consultants to having a job with the Jets. So just make your own hire and equip yourself with the information necessary so when the time comes, you can do the interviews, you can talk to the people, you know which questions to ask, you know what's relevant to the construction of a successful football operation. After 25 years, I'd like to think that Woody's in a position to figure it out. Compared to Jerry Jones, he had no qualifications to be the GM of the Cowboys, but he rolled up the sleeves and he did the job. And at some point, just the fact that you've been doing the job gives you the qualifications, even if you had no business doing the job in the first place. Most of these owners, I don't know whether it's they're busy with other things, they think it's beneath them, or they're just lazy. They don't put in the work and the effort necessary to allow themselves to make good decisions when it's time to make big decisions.
Does the NFL have any resources for owners who are trying to find the right GMs to speak with or find the right head coaches to talk with? And we've seen other teams like Matt Ryan, the most recent example in Atlanta. Arthur Blank names him, basically like the president of football ops, and the GM and the coach report to him. And that's someone that Arthur obviously trusts. From a Jet perspective, Chad Pennington's name's been mentioned. Curtis Martin, who apparently was interested in getting into NFL ownership, he's been mentioned. Like, can the NFL basically say, hey, Woody, like, you should seriously consider adding like a true football voice to kind of help you with the coach and GM process, that president of football operation role?
There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the curtain. There's a lot of conversation. They used to put together a list of recommended prospects every year. I haven't seen that list in a while. That doesn't mean they're not doing it. I just haven't seen it. But the league is there. The league is a resource. The league is partially owned by the Jets. They're not trying to help anyone, but they'll try to help everyone. It just all comes down to how much you want to take advantage of that. And I think some owners, I'm not saying Woody specifically, I really do think some owners go by the old Mark Twain notion that it's better to keep your mouth shut and be perceived a fool than to open your mouth and confirm it. Like, I think some owners don't even know how to go about, and again, I'm not saying it's Woody, I just think some owners don't even know how to go about asking the questions without exposing that maybe they don't know nearly enough about this business that they own.
Mike Florio is our guest here, talking all things Jets. And now a little state of the NFL before we wrap, Mike. What to you is the biggest NFL story that is being under-discussed right now? You have all the owners and GMs, coaches in one spot here. What is like the big thing that is maybe not the big mainstream story yet that you're starting to hear some rumblings on?
Well, it's rule change season, and they're getting proposals, and they're talking about different things they may do. And I saw that Rich McKay, the chair of the competition committee, said the other day that the league's in a good place. There aren't a lot of proposed changes this year. Boy, it strikes me as an opportunity to really take seriously the flaws that they have with officiating, whether it's full-time officials, whether it's coming up with better ways to train the officials, replay. They're so hesitant to make sweeping changes to replay. They do baby steps. Troy Vincent talked about that this week. He said they don't want to open Pandora's box. I mean, Pandora's box is already open. And they're at a point where so many plays are reviewable, it becomes glaring when you find a play that isn't, and it happens during a game and it's clearly wrong. And you're like, well, why didn't they review it? Oh, they can't. Well, why can't they? They can review everything else. But they keep creeping bit by bit, very carefully, toward making everything reviewable except a handful of things. They should just go ahead and make it all reviewable and identify a small handful of things that won't be. That's what they should do. But they're very reluctant to do it. They still insist on a slow, steady evolution of the replay process. And I think it drives a lot of people crazy because we see the mistakes get made and they can't change them because they haven't gotten to the point yet where they're comfortable stretching the rubber band far enough to encompass that play.
Are you fully expecting an 18-game season?
Yes. As soon as 2027. I don't think it'll happen by then, but the league hasn't picked a date for Super Bowl 62 in Atlanta, and we're less than 2 years away from that. And going into the Super Bowl planning is a variety of things, like we need to have the convention center for the whole week. We need to have all of the hotel space for the whole week. It's not something just you put together in a weekend. They need to do it in advance. I'm told the reason they haven't done it yet, they're holding open the need to potentially slide the date to accommodate an 18th game. And we'll see. We'll see if it gets there. I think what will happen is as soon as the NFL Players Association has a new executive director, probably the middle of next month, good chance it'll be the interim executive director, David White. I think they're going to move quickly with a clear, firm offer. Here's what we're going to give you. We can do it the easy way. We can do it the hard way. You can take this. The offer is going to get worse. We'll lock you out. We're going to get what we want. We want 18 games. We want 16 international games per year. We want this. We want this. We want this. We'll give you this. We'll give you this. We'll give you this. Let's do it now. Do it now. Say yes. And if they do, I don't think it'll happen. But if they do, well, we could have 18 games as soon as next season, not this season.
If it's 18 games, does that include a second bye? Is every team, as you alluded to there, would every team have one international game per season now? How do you picture the actual schedule playing out if that 18th game is added?
There would be 16 international games as part of this deal. I assume it means all teams play one. The reality is sometimes we see teams play multiple, which would take one of the teams out of the mix. If you only have 16, that's 32 opponents involved. That's every team. And if someone like the Jaguars would go over twice or go and play one game as the home team, one game as the road team, then that's going to diminish the load for someone else. But I think it'll be 18. I think it'll be 16. I've heard talk of 2 byes. And if they do that and they want the season to end on President's Day weekend, they're going to have to start on Labor Day again. Because 18-2, the way the season currently starts, it's going to overshoot President's Day.
Right.
So
then you have college football that you're also dealing with.
Too bad. College football, stand down. Daddy's home. We're taking over again. That's sorry, but that's the way it always was. And right now they've got one game scheduled for college football on the Sunday of Labor Day weekend, Notre Dame, Wisconsin from Lambeau Field. So the only reason they didn't do it since 2001 is they believe that viewership is lower if they start the season Labor Day weekend because people are out and about for the one last blast of summer. Well, 2001, we weren't all carrying around a TV everywhere we went. So I think that concern's over. So that would be part of it too. And I think also there's a reason, and I'm working on this now and I'm trying to get more details. And this is an idea that was floated years ago, but I think this could start to trickle back into the equation. 18 games with a limit on the number of games that each player can play, whether it be 17, whether it be 16. There would be a limit on every player.
For regular season, you're talking.
Regular season. So we got 18 games. Everybody's going to have a game off, which would, I don't know, would that operate as a second bye? I don't know how that would work.
I think fans would hate that.
Oh, I know they would, but the NFL doesn't care. Don't get in the way of progress, and progress is money. And just be advised, I'm still working on that and I'm trying to get more details, but I think we'll be doing some reporting at some point in the not too distant future about the idea of players limited to 17 games. I don't know if that obviates the necessity of a second bye. It could be second bye and 17 games. I don't know, but we're working on it. But that's out there. It shows you how badly they want to get to 18 games and how badly they want to get the union to say yes to 18 games. So, hey, if the human body's not built to play more than 17 regular season games, fine. We'll play 18, and everybody will play no more than 17 in the regular season.
Last question. You've been at this a long time. What is the angriest someone ever was with something that you reported on Pro Football Talk or said on NBC?
The angriest? Mike Zimmer was up my ass once about something I said on Football Night in America. I had to send him a bottle of wine to smooth it over. It didn't matter. Once he got fired, he blamed me for firing him. I've got the text messages. He blamed me for getting him fired. It's like, man, if I had that kind of power, I would be using it to make a hell of a lot more money than I do. But that was not pleasant. I've had several occasions over the years where someone will give me a hard time. And usually what I'll do is I'll hear them out, and then I respect their position, they respect mine, and we smooth it over. The one guy where it never resolved itself was the former Buccaneers coach, Dirk Cutter. When he got the job early 2016, they fired Lovie Smith and they promoted Dirk Cutter. And I interviewed him, and I worded it fairly innocuously along the lines of, what would you say to those who believe that this was kind of an inside job, like this was set up, like we're getting rid of Lovie Smith and you're going to get promoted? And he didn't like that question, but he didn't say it at the time. At the league meetings 2 months later, at a time when everybody's supposed to kind of be loose and friendly and everything's fine, I walked up to, like a dumb, stupid sheepdog, hey, there's my buddy Dirk Cutter, who I interviewed, and he let me have it for about 20 minutes. My wife was there, and she was like, what the hell's going on? And I just took it, and I thought it would turn him, and eventually I just gave up. And then I got upset because it's like, man, that's not the place to handle something like that. You don't wait for 2 months for a relaxed atmosphere, and then basically I walked into an uppercut from this guy. So that's the maddest anyone ever was, and I don't think he's still gotten over it. But I wish I would have told him at the time, because I thought of it. It was one of those things where, I wanted to say it and I didn't. I wanted to say, Dirk, I'm going to be doing my job a lot longer than you're doing yours.
And you've been doing it a long time. Mike, great to catch up. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, man.